There's a fly on the wall in the room today, and it's me. When I first came to Warner, I had one goal in mind, and that was to graduate. 39 days. That was all I wanted. I didn't care about getting involved on campus, doing this thing or that thing. Didn't really care about being particularly sociable. I just wanted my degree. Oftentimes, after class, I would have several friends asking me to go do this or that, to stay for intramurals, to go get a cup of coffee, to go to a sporting event, to go get food. And honestly, my gut reaction was always to say, no thanks. I wanted to simply get in my car and go home, because I just wanted my degree. You see, that's the problem with being a fly on the wall. You don't really get involved in many things. I knew what was going on campus. I knew some of the issues, the hot button topics. And I knew some of the celebrations that everyone was having. But I didn't care. I just wanted my degree. For me, my overcoming desire for this degree got in my way when it came to getting involved. For you, it may be something different. I look around campus and I see all sorts of things that might be getting in your way. In talking to people, there may be issues like race getting in your way. There may be issues like your chosen degree path that seems to be getting in the way. Maybe you don't want to get involved because you feel like you're in the wrong social class. Maybe you just don't agree with the status quo. Whatever it may be, my desire for my degree kept me from getting involved. For you, it may be something different. But as I look around the room right now, I'm realizing that there's a fly on the wall. But this time, it's not me.
I've been at Warner for about three and a half years now. And like Molly said, and Spencer said, 39 days. I can do it. And about a few years ago, there's a student that came into Warner. And this particular student, I've done life with now since she's been here. And she's one of those people that has changed my life. She is one of the most loving people I've ever known. Even on the worst days, you could have going through something really terrible, and just seeing her smile will just light you up and be like, man, I wanted to be sad today. Why did I see you? And there's just always something about her that always just captivates my attention. And we had a conversation a couple weeks ago probably, and something that I never knew about her that was just like, wow, like I never knew you felt that way. Well, the student's a commuter, and those of you who do commute, you know the struggles of having to go home at the end of the night, and you can't stay here, or at least all the time can't stay here. And she expressed to me how she wishes she could do the things that we do at night here on campus, so like go to night of worships, or go to intramurals. And throughout this, I just kept hearing this, I wish I could do these things, but then there's this moment of clarity where she's like, but I understand that it's no one's fault that I can't. That simply me being a commuter means I have to go home and sleep so I can come back and do this again the next day. And so she kept seeing this fragmentation of something that wasn't anyone's fault. That it wasn't anyone's fault that was keeping her from doing this, or that it wasn't something that she necessarily could change, because if the times were changed for these events, it would affect other people. And so she came to this point where she was like, I wish I could do these things, and I do feel like not excluded, but I feel like I can't do these things because of my own limitations. And I don't know how to get past that or what I should do about that. And we just had this conversation, and we just kind of came to the point where she's like, but I'm okay with it. Like, I'm okay with being this kind of fragmentation that I feel, but also realizing that it's no one's fault that I'm here besides my own and my own limitations, and that I will move on with it and I will still be okay.
Hey guys. During my junior year, I remember taking, I believe, interpersonal communication with this one girl. And soon as I got to know her, she became a really dear friend to me. Most tend to believe that she's super quiet and super shy, like me. But once you really got to know her, you really got to notice that she was super funny, but also somebody who was just really down to earth. And some people wouldn't notice that because she was very quiet. Another thing about her is that she's also a commuter. She commutes from Tiger to all the way here. So she's not here on a 24/7 basis, and she's not here to participate or engage in Warner events because they're usually in the afternoon or in the night. And also because she has outside priorities that she needs to attend to. So she's not here to engage with students as much as she would like to and see if, oh, hey, like, do we have similar interests? Why don't we go grab a cup of coffee or anything like that? And it's not only hard for her, but it's very hard because she's also an introvert. And so I don't know who here is an introvert, but I'm an introvert. So it's very hard for her to be like, hey, like, what's up, to another student. So it's very hard because she's really quiet and much more reserved. But in all reality, she is somebody who has a heart of gold, but also somebody who actually has a loud personality once you really get to know her.
I'm actually going to be reading a letter from a student to the chapel. Dear Warner Pacific Chapel, coming back to college after 30 years was a scary experience for me. The last time I stepped into a college classroom, there was no such thing as Moodle, the internet, social media. Yakima Valley College only had a few Apple II computers, and the only reason I was there was to play football. But after that season, because of my family financial issues, I joined the Marines, where I would spend the next 7 years of my life seeing the world, experiencing, and making great friends. When I stepped onto the Warner Pacific campus after transferring from Clark College last year, I was extremely nervous just because I'm so much older than everyone else in almost every single one of my classes, including older than the teachers. Most of the students are actually younger than my son, who's 24 and just graduated college himself with a marketing and finance degree. Part of me felt like here is this old guy stealing all their thunder from their college experience just being in the classroom. Now, in my mind, I'm still that 19-year-old kid who wanted to finish college, but when I look in the mirror, reality kicks in, and I'm not fooling anyone. I see the different cliques around the school, just like when I was younger. It is in the classrooms, around campus, and even in chapel. It's a comfort of sorts for some people, whether it is intentional or not, but I don't belong to any of these cliques because, well, it would just be weird and creepy to have this old guy with you. But I am a part of this community since I live here on campus. Being a part of the Warner family has been a good experience so far, even if at times it felt like I was the distant, strange cousin. Those whom I have shared classes with and have had a chance to get to know, it has been a great experience. But there is this stare or glance that follows me and asks, why are you here? Everyone here has a story, and I'm no exception. I was married for 23 years, but unfortunately we drifted apart. We remained friends until she passed away last year, and 7 years ago I gave her a kidney so that she could spend a few more years with our son and meet the woman that he would marry. After years in the same industry, I chose to finish school and get a degree in social work when some of my friends from the military were suffering from their experiences of combat and not enough was being done. Too many had committed suicide, been arrested, divorced, or struggled with drug and alcohol issues because they were isolated. For me, being a part of that solution was coming here, and that was the most important part. My wish for my time at Warner is to have hopefully made a difference to those around, just as those around me have made an impact on me. Topics in classrooms today were some things that we never really discussed when I was 19 or 20 years old. And I sit in the classrooms and I listen to the discussions, and I've learned a lot. A lot of times I do not join in the discussions because I feel different. But I am listening and taking in what every one of you is saying. Just because I am from a different generation does not mean that we cannot learn something new from each other. Since coming to Warner, I have changed my ways of thinking and looking at the world around me, thanks in part to the great educators and because of the students who voice their opinions. I may not say much, but I am here listening, taking it all in, and hopefully it will make me a better social worker in the future. Sincerely, someone with hope.
All right. First off, I want to say, Yvette, valiant effort trying to get all the introverts to say woohoo in the middle of a crowded room. I thought that was hilarious. We love you, introverts. So, if many of you look around, you can see that we placed a lot of signs in the room, and a lot of these signs have labels on them that we wrote out, and we placed them in certain areas that we think certain students sit in chapel. And what these signs do is they act as a metaphor to illustrate a point that we're trying to convey. And these are just a small image of what we think is going on campus as a whole. And that is that we carry labels, we carry certain identities that fragment us from many other groups of people. And in my opinion, the most painful one to look at is this one right here, the super Christian. And I don't know why, but that is straight up nails on a chalkboard for me. And along with this, I actually identify with a handful of these labels, and I'm going to speak to a few of these. So my time as a super Christian, as much as it pains me to say it, happened to me my sophomore year when me and a handful of my best friends lived in an apartment called AO, and that is the apartment that is attached to Warman Hall right there. And yeah, I think you live there right now. But we had this vision, and it was beautiful. We wanted to have an open door policy where people could come, they could be mentored, they could be friended, be bonded with. We hosted just days worth of Smash Bros competitions, and we put on meals for people, and we just really wanted to create a safe space where people of all shapes and sizes could come. However, time and time again, I would sit in that apartment with the room crowded with a bunch of people, and I would look around and I would realize that there was one group of people in my apartment day in and day out, and those people were other Christians. And while we wanted to really open up our doors so everybody could come in, we noticed that there was specifically one group coming in. And at that time, I didn't realize it. I realize it now looking back. And back in the day, I honestly didn't really care because it was my goal to fill the apartment. But looking back on it, I can see clearly that there was fragmentation between those who believe in Jesus and those who don't. And I honestly didn't really even care enough to address it. I just ignored it, and I was honestly blind to it. The next section that I kind of identify with was transitioning out of my time in AO and transitioning into my time as an athlete. And this is when I really started to hone in on my track and field skills. All my trackers out there, what's up? And so I really got into track late, my late sophomore year, early junior year, And I was actually really good at it. I was a pole vaulter. I broke the school record. I went to nationals. I actually did some like decently notable things for a private Christian school. So no, please don't. Oh gosh. But what's interesting about track and field is it is a sport in itself. However, it is made out of a bunch of little mini sports, which we call events. It's made of pole vaulters, jumpers, sprinters, hurdlers, etc. And it's really an amazing sport. However, when I was running track, I realized that the more I started to identify with my specific event, pole vaulting, and the more that I practiced and the better that I got, I noticed that my world became smaller and smaller, and the invisible walls around me became bigger and bigger between me and my other teammates. Because track in itself is vulnerable to being fragmented because jumpers go and practice by themselves, pole vaulters practice by themselves, throwers by themselves, and so what happens is we don't spend any time together, even though we're supposed to be a unified team. But there are all these invisible walls separating us within the team, and that of course carries outside of athletics into like our social lives and all that stuff, and it's just a really great illustration for what is going on in track and field as well as what's happening in the school as a whole. And so after track and field, after my athletic stage, I actually transitioned into being a student leader and to being an RA. And this is when I identify with like the miscellaneous and like the students and the chapel credits and all that. Because as a student leader, I was able to take a really, really close look with a much wider lens at the student body as a whole, and to really like see what the heck was actually going on. And I realized that fragmentation wasn't just happening between Christians and non-Christians and in track and field. It was actually happening everywhere. Thank you. And I saw that it was happening between people on my hall in Lower Warman. Like it wasn't just upper and lower. It was if you were on one side of the hall, you rarely hung out with people on the other side of the hall. And so like that was a really extreme version. And then I also saw it happening between majors, between other sports like soccer and basketball. And I really saw it. I saw it everywhere. And what's hard about this is explicitly no one's fault. Like this is something that I think just happens naturally to humans. Like we just gravitate towards people who are like us. We want to be comfortable. However, what that does is it robs us from being in genuine relationship with people who are different than us, and that just takes away so much that we can learn about just being humans and being in community and just loving one another and knowing one another. And I just think that it doesn't have to be that way, and I think that Warner has a much brighter future ahead of itself. And this is where I kind of feel like a jerk, because as so many people have said it, we have how many days left? 39 days left. But that's a little bit more real for me, because I am literally here for one class. This is the only class that I'm in this semester, and that is the only reason I'm in this chapel, and I barely have one toe in the door. And so I'm actually leaving. And so I don't want to be that guy who's like, hey, Warner, here's all your problems. See ya. Even though I'm kind of being that guy, but I don't want to paint that picture. I just want to say that there's hope and that we're passing the baton to you guys, because I know so many faces in here. I know so many hearts, and I know that you are so loving and that you want like what's best for this school. But I mean, you're going to have to do it without me.
All right. So the stories you just heard were of examples and just what we've seen, and some, Johnny in particular, like students who've noticed this like fragmentation themselves. So now we're going to transition a little bit. We're actually going to go into talking about people that we have noticed who are doing an amazing job of being able to like notice these fragmentations and kind of just walk right through it and kind of walk right through those and connect people from one side of a label, so like connecting athletes all the way to the people who are just here for chapel credits. And so we're going to kind of transition to that, and I'm going to talk about someone now, and we'll go on from there. So the person I'm actually going to talk about isn't even a student, but she is around all the time. You can see this person in chapel. Typically in chapel, she might be up in this little corner up here, like doing a little jiggy thing, getting it down when worship's going. And then like 5 seconds later, you'll see her run to the back of the room and just be back there talking with someone. Or like just looking at someone like, hey, pick me up. Or you can see her down in the calf making a big ruckus, which is amazing because we all love kids. And we're like, yes, oh, you're so cute. Or you can hear her at the table like saying, I want ice cream. So obviously, you know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about Mia. And for this little activity, we're going to do a little thing. Hopefully this actually works. So the point of this is, who in this room has ever interacted with Mia in any way? In chapel, and on the lawn, in the calf, anything. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to hold on to this end. I'm going to throw it to someone. And what I want you to do is hold on to the bit you have and throw it to someone with their hand up. And I want to see how far this goes. Just keep it moving. And I'll give you like, I don't know, a little bit to try and do this. Don't forget to look on the outskirts. Look on the sides. There are people on the sides. Look to your right. Just keep going back. Look to your right. Caesar, look right. Oh, there we go. All right, so as you're continuing to do this, I'm going to kind of talk a little bit as you're doing this. So what this is representing is kind of what I said already, that this is the connections that Mia has been able to make. That if you're seeing this string, if you kind of, this is actually a really cool picture from up here. As you're looking, like you can see where the string is going. You can see how it goes all the way to the sides. You can see how it goes now across the room. It went back across the room. And the thing that I've noticed about this is that whenever you kind of realize what Mia is doing, she kind of just does it to do it because she loves people. It's kind of what I'm getting at. I think she just does it because she genuinely wants to pay someone to pay attention to her. But the cool thing is that there's no really hesitation. Like there's that moment of like, should I? And then it's like, oh, okay, I'll do it anyways. And it's really cool because I think that kind of the picture that I'm trying to paint right now is that we can do that too. That we have the same capability and the same tools to be able to do that. And that as we like do community together, as we go to classes together, we spend so much time, good throw. We spend so much time with the student body and so much time with the people in this chapel right now, with classes, with going to lunch together, dinner, meals. We just, in passing, that why is it so hard for us to talk? To stop and talk for 2 seconds and actually genuinely find out how someone's doing. Or to just be able to go sit next to someone. Who all in here, like when you go to class, you sit in the same seat every day in class? Well, why is that? I know that's why. But without that, because I'm the same way. But I would also argue that it might be a little bit of a comfort thing too. That we're comfortable with the people that are around us. And that I'm not going to go sit on the other side of the room because I necessarily may not know that person that well, or I'm not comfortable in this classroom with sitting next to them in that particular setting. And so my whole point of this whole entire string thing is that I think if we watch the people who do it well, me in particular and like the people that we're going to talk about, if we watch these people who are keep doing this, I think eventually we'll be able to, I just said eventually twice, we'll be able to replicate it for ourselves and be able to do it without even like the second guessing of ourselves. We'll just do it because it's part of us and it's part of our nature to do it. Yeah, I've told on the string the whole entire time.
It's still going. That string is making its moves. One of the things that you might be seeing and coming away from this is that people have great arms, for one, but that the box that you are in is a bad thing. And I think that's a wrong message. We don't want to send that message today. We don't want to say that just because you're here to do your homework, that it's a bad thing. That just because you are a different part of the school, maybe you're an athlete and that's what you're here for. You're here to do your athletics. That's not a bad thing. But it's when people put that label on you and say that's all you are, that's when it becomes a bad thing. When it becomes something that is seen as negative, that's when it becomes a bad thing. So your box is not a bad thing. You are not a bad person for having the box that you live in. That makes you who you are. But that also makes it hard to step out of your box and see other boxes and go across boxes and connect boxes together. But there is someone that we noticed who does that well, who says, yes, this is your box and you are in that box, but I care about you even though you are in that box. You are more than just the box. You are a person in that box, and you are a valuable person. Your box doesn't limit you, and if your box is something that is negative, then I'm going to fight for that. And we think Oksana Maximov does this really well. Oksana, could you raise your hand real quick? She is somebody, I would go down this aisle, but I'm not even going to be able to make it through all those strings right there. She's someone who's going to walk around, dodge strings, and come back to the homework club and say, even though you're in this homework club, you are still a person. You are a person within that. I know it's really tiny, so you might not be able to see it. But it doesn't stop with just her. If we all maybe took a second and watched what Oksana does, we could do it ourselves. Would you write on the chapel credit for me? And a person. Would you head over to miscellaneous right there and write a person on there? Yeah, getting through those strings, good luck. Would you mind going over to the Super Christians and writing and a person? This is something that we all have the capacity to do. We have the capacity to go across these boundary lines and say, you are a person in your box. And I'm not necessarily leaving who I am behind. I'm taking that with me and going, would you write over on the staff and a person? This is our responsibility as a community to step out and see the people that live in these boxes and say, you are still a person. I think the Super Christians need a person on them, if you don't mind. So as we notice Oksana and what she is doing in our community, perhaps that's something that we can start doing and then see how that transcends even Warner's boundaries into the city's boundaries. And say, maybe this is something we can start doing on our campus, but also on a larger scale. So take a second to observe people who do go across boundaries well.
We've all been put into boxes today. Hope you've enjoyed it, because it's not necessarily a bad thing. As Mia and Oksana have shown us, there are ways that we can responsibly engage these boxes that we're in. There's one other person who I think does just a phenomenal job with this. Somebody who just fits into really any category they can. And that, he needs no introduction. His name is Justin Lewis. What are you doing? Justin told me when I set the sign down that said miscellaneous, he said, I feel like a miscellaneous. And it's true, because he fits literally anywhere you put him. He fits in every category, And he doesn't just stop there. Would you hold this, please? He doesn't just stop there. What he does next is he begins to take people from those categories and put them in a new category, a category I would like to call Justin's team. Justin volunteers as tribute. But the thing is, with so many different boxes and so many different teams that we could be in, there seem to be rules and there seem to be parameters that can't be broken. There's a hierarchy of some sort. Whoever's been here the longest, maybe they're at the top of the hierarchy. Whoever is the coolest, whoever has the best clothes, whoever is, I don't know, insert something here. But with Justin is constantly redefining boundaries. There is no limit to the size of Justin's team. In fact, I can tell you right now, just based on the way everybody clapped when I introduced Justin, you're all on Justin's team. We are all in different boxes and on different teams. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. Mia has shown us, Oksana has shown us, and Justin has shown us as well that there's a way to responsibly engage our boxes and to responsibly engage the teams that we're on. So what these three people ask you, what Mia asks, what Oksana asks, and what Justin asks you, is who is on your team?
Hello again, everyone. I want to say that being engaged on this campus can be really difficult. We all came on this campus for our first time for our first day of school, or maybe it was for a tour. And when we stepped onto this campus for the first time, we did so with different dreams, passions, fears, restrictions, and obligations. All of the newness can be overwhelming. And when we are feeling overwhelmed, many of us have found ourselves desperately wanting to fit in under any means possible. Sure enough, though, within the first few weeks, once the routine starts getting down, once we start going to classes, once we start getting to know the people around us, many of us find a group that makes us feel a little more at peace with all of the change and transition. These groups become our family. When we fail an assignment, these are the people who help us study for the next one. When we sprain our ankle at practice, these are the people who will get us ice. When we get a sad phone call from our hometown, these are the people who talk it through with us until the wee hours of the morning. When we are criticized for being ourselves, these are the people who empower us. When we are reminded that we are hated simply for what we look like or where we came from, these are the people who tell us we're not alone in our frustrations. These are the people who have helped us establish a home away from home. Unfortunately, sometimes, and we are all guilty of this, we get so attached to this new home and this new family that we forget what was necessary to come here in the first place. We forget that in order to have come to college, we had to step away from our other home and family. Coming to college meant breaking away from the support that we have known our whole lives and becoming open to connecting with new people, making new relationships, enjoying new experiences, and living in the fear and anxiety of it all. These new families are important, and if I could say about my own family, it is what has gotten me through these last 4 years. The relatives developed on this campus for all of us will be with us for the rest of our college experiences and most likely for the rest of our lives to some degree. And we can see the evidence of this in this very room. if you look around. There are fragments throughout this audience dividing one family from another. Consider that perhaps, while you may be sitting in safety and security with people who dearly and sincerely and genuinely love you, there are others who are sitting alone and staring at the families from the outside looking in, wondering when their time will come when they won't feel as overwhelmed. And consider perhaps that while you may be sitting alone staring from the outside in at these fragments, the fact of the matter is you deserve to find your home as well and your family members. Whether you are at this school just to get a degree in 39 days, or if you are putting your whole being into the experience of Warner Pacific, you deserve to feel safe, recognized, seen, and heard. I want to challenge you to step out of your home space just one more time. This time, the home space will not be your hometown or the house you grew up in or the family who raised you from a child. You did it once from there and it was hard. I would not ask you to do it again. It was overwhelming, stressful, thrilling, scary, and adventurous. But we should do it again on a smaller scale. Look outside of your fragment. Look outside of the tribe that you have established. Open your eyes and lift your head to those who you wouldn't have seen before. Look to your left and to your right and see the people who may not be part of a family yet. Look and see who still looks emotionally overwhelmed, who looks anxious, who doesn't know what they're doing. And remember this as you begin looking. You would be amazed at just how far you can travel from home before you have to return to it.
Hey guys, you're dismissed. I'm just going to play as you go. Thanks.